So we know that their drawings on this are not the best, right? So part of your job is to fix them while you're making your drawings. So your drawings are better than these are, right? And so if we look here, 15.6, these are 5.9, these are 7.8, 11.7, right? Or 15.6, 7.8, whatever, right? And so when we make the drawing, we get this. That's not 5.9, right? That's not 7.8. So what should we change? What should we set up on our part? If we're looking at theirs. How many decimal places do they use max? 1. But also, if it's a whole number, there's are no decimals, it's metric, right? So we don't show those trailing zeros. So in your settings, you go to document settings, and then go to edit. Set your units to be only one place, and turn off the trailing zeros and turn on the leading zeros, right? So there's nothing less than 1, so that doesn't really matter. But now when I say okay, now it does that and it rounds it. Remember, those are rounded numbers. But what's the relationship between that circle and that circle? They're concentric, right? So if I just put in a center mark, why won't you put in an actual full center mark? There. And then I just grab that and drag it out past, like that. That just tied those two circles together. Now they're concentric. Now because they're sharing that center mark going all the way through, that's saying that those two are concentric. So do I need that dimension now? If I have that, or if I have that, do I need that dimension? No, because this is the diameter. That's the radius of that same diameter. It's redundant. So even if I have that and one. And if I have that and that, this one is redundant, right? I don't need this one because that's already taken care of. If I make the center mark there, going out past it, tying it together, and so you want to extend out past it a little bit more. But now that ties those together. Okay? Should I connect these two, the center mark and that center mark? No, because they're not lined up with each other. Could I do these two?
You could.
I do a center mark. Okay. Those things have to do with each other? Yeah, they do, right? Because these two have to line up with the same holes on the other part, right? So these two are connected to each other. They rely on each other. They're gonna, if this spacing on one part is different than the spacing on a different part, they're not gonna work, right? So you could do that center line like that, just to show that, hey, these two things are connected. You have to? No. But you could do it just to provide that relationship. So that's part of what we use center marks and center lines for, is establishing relationships between features. Okay. That make sense? Yep.
Okay. I don't know if this is okay, but you just did away with the height.
Yeah, you could do that too. But if you do the radius, then you don't need this. Right?
Okay.
So you could do the overall height.
It's like, I guess I am.
And then you could call the radius there. But lots of different options, but kind of that gives a little bit better thing. But yeah, I definitely wouldn't give a dimension to the center point. And so also on this, just kind of thinking about relationships, if these two things are related to each other, is dimensioning from the side, like opposite sides of the part, the best way? What happens if this part is made a little bit longer? And we're measuring from the sides in. Now those measurements move a little bit further apart, right? Now we might not be aligned the same. So this is we're going to talk more about tolerancing in 20, and actually probably more in 23 also the next 9 weeks. But if you want to control that distance between them, you should dimension that distance between them. So just kind of there to think about whether you make that change on this part or not, because I said kind of just use this, but as that's the kind of the next step is when we're thinking about actually making these parts and how things might change while they're being made with the tolerances, then that actually affects something. But for this, if you want to take that into account and do that, fine. If you just want to kind of replicate this but clean it up a little bit, that's good too. Okay. Until we talk about tolerances, you're not going to really see the connection. But when we talk about it, you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense now. Okay. Any other questions?